Joining me now here is Professor Bernard Harcourt, who's normally at Columbia University in New York, but I'm pleased to say today he's in Paris with us in the studio. Thank you for coming in, sir.
Thanks.
We'll come to the particularities of some of the races in a moment, perhaps Philadelphia that we were just hearing about there from Jessica. But first of all, big picture from you, if I can. Based on the results in so far, are you surprised that that Republican so-called red wave hasn't really materialised?
Well, I wouldn't say surprised because I really feel as if we didn't know, right? We were operating maybe with a stethoscope or something, but the election was an ultrasound, kind of gave us an ultrasound view of America today, of its soul, I think. And
what's in the soul? What have we seen?
I think we're seeing deeper blue. I think we're seeing a deeper kind of blue around the country. We definitely didn't see, we didn't see a red wave, which a lot of people had predicted based on the polls and stuff. I think there's elements of a deeper blue turnout, which is probably responsible for the results overall. But I think you see it in strange places as well, like Michigan votes to put abortion in its constitution. And Vermont does too. And you get the first female governor elected to New York State. At first black governor in Maryland. So those are all facets of, I think, something like a deeper blue.
So you do think then, actually, for voters, abortion was a really big deal, because there was plenty of analysis in the run-up to these midterms saying actually the Democrats didn't go hard enough on issues like the economy, saying they understood what was going on with inflation and that they focused too much on social issues like abortion. Actually, what you're saying is that those issues matter enormously to voters.
Well, I think we're seeing that they did. I think we're seeing that they did, and I mean, you would have expected in a midterm election like this to lose 50 or 60 seats in the House. Clinton lost 50 seats in the House, 53 or something. Obama lost 60 plus seats in the House. The way it's looking, it's going to be maybe a dozen or so.
So it is a win, almost, for the
it's surprising. It is. Yeah, I would say it is.
And
it's surprising.
Sorry, forgive me for interrupting you, but I want to ask you about Donald Trump, a man who wasn't on the ballot in this election, but lots of candidates who he backed very publicly were on the ballot. Where do you think this rather patchy result for the Republicans leaves him and his nomination that we expect for 2024? Because there's Ron DeSantis, who's won the governorship in Florida with a big majority. Does he have a better chance now among the Republicans, do you think?
DeSantis does. Yes, definitely. It's possible. We'll have to see how things play out. The next couple of days are going to be very interesting on this. It's possible that the Trump MAGA has hit a plateau, possibly, and could possibly be in decline. It could possibly be that it kind of that DeSantis takes over that MAGA movement at this point.
But DeSantis was a man in Trump's image, wasn't he?
He is. I think on the deep down, they're not different on most issues that matter. On the social issues, they're in the same place, right? I mean, discrimination against LGBTQ and discrimination on sexuality and the focus on migrants and the dangers of migrants and flying them up to Martha's Vineyard, stuff like that. I think on the substance they're not very different. I think the manner, the style, there's I think DeSantis is less of a New York thug kind of than Trump presented himself as a fighter, kind of like a New York street fighter in a way. So I think that probably will play better in America, actually, I would think.
So you think it could be
for DeSantis.
DeSantis v. Biden in 2024, based on the fact that he's done too badly in these elections?
That's another big question.
That's a big working assumption.
That's another big question.
Well, let's talk about something that I would really like to get your reflections on, which is the strength, or maybe the lack thereof, of American democracy. The New York Times is reporting today that nearly 200 Republicans who had questioned the results of the election in 2020 or denied Biden's victory outright have now won races in these midterms. What does that tell us about America today?
Yeah. Well, it tells us that there is a strong, what I would call kind of counter-revolutionary movement that's actually taking place in the country, I think. Counter-revolutionary in a couple of ways. I mean, it's a small minority of the population, the MAGA minority, that views itself as as the protectors of the country against these internal enemies. It's a logic, a way of seeing the world that actually traces to counterinsurgency theory in the 1960s, I think we see that. I think that's pretty strong. It's also a little bit counter-revolutionary in the sense that it's really dismantling or going up against the institutions of the American Revolution, basically, right? I mean, challenging those institutions. So I think that's. I mean, we saw it full blown on January 6th for the insurrection, and I think that still exists. The question is going to be, where it goes at this point, given that there's more resistance, it seems, a bit of a deeper blue throughout the United States. And also given that you've got a very different democratic administration than previous ones. I mean, let's not forget that Biden took us out of the war in Afghanistan.
Right. You touched on January 6th, though, and I'm interested to talk a bit more then about political violence as it is in the United States. It was only a few weeks ago that Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked in their home. Is that something that you worry about now in America's future? I mean, I read an article the other day saying it is a question of when, not if, there'll be another civil war in the United States. Would you go that far? Are things that bad?
Well,
it's a big question. I appreciate that.
Against Prediction. So it's fraught to make these predictions. I think the United States is. I think that this counter-revolutionary force is dangerous and can lead in difficult directions. I think also the supply of guns in the United States, the fact that many states are going towards you don't even need a license to carry a gun. Alabama just did that. Texas is going there as well. So there are certain aspects that are truly frightening about where the country is headed because of these counter-revolutionary forces. Whether it will lead to another civil war, that's hard to predict.
It is a big question. Thank you for giving a go at answering it. Just finally, more concretely on the politics of this, we imagine Republicans will take control of the House of Representatives, the lower house. What does that mean in terms of what politics looks like in the States in the next few years? I mean, there's even talk of plans to impeach President Biden. Is that really going to happen? Gridlock in Congress? What do you expect?
Well, look, there is gridlock in Congress right now, simply because even though the Democrats had the House and the Senate, there was the filibuster in the Senate. So basically, Biden hasn't been able to pass any legislation, essentially. Right? Everything was done through budget reconciliation measures. Now, those won't be able to operate anymore because the Democrats won't have the House now. So that the only way that Biden was able to get through the infrastructure and get through the Inflation Reduction Act and get through all of those measures to kind of fight global climate warming and things like that was through budget reconciliation, because he had both houses and he could avoid a filibuster. But he couldn't get, at this point now, with a Republican House, basically the country will be at a standstill in terms of moving forward, in terms of legislation, and in terms of trying to use any budgetary process to avoid legislation. So I think we're in a bit of a situation where the next 2 years will be dysfunctional.
Dysfunctional. All right, we will leave it with that thought. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Professor Bernard Harcourt, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.